Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, we welcome Imminence guitarist and founding member Harald Barret to the podcast. Imminence released Hiding in Heaven, one of my favorite albums of 2021, back in November on Rising Empire Records. Harald talks about the absence of a supportive metal scene in Sweden, incorporating strings into Imminence's sound, how the band worked through the pandemic, and finding purpose on Hiding in Heaven. If you haven't heard Hiding in Heaven yet, I definitely recommend giving it a spin. It's an absolutely incredible record. Enjoyed this week's chat with Harald Barret from Imminence. How's it going?
Good, thank you. A bit busy because we yesterday we announced 2 release shows that we're doing in Sweden just before we get on our like European leg, or actually It's like two dates that we're doing like before we go to Finland in January. But it's sort of kicking off the whole release tour that we're doing, like the album tour, Heaven and Hiding. So we just announced that it's going to be in Gothenburg and in Stockholm. 2 other really cool bands in the lineup. It's really exciting, but a little bit scary as well, because these are like the first shows we're headlining in Sweden in, I think it's like 7 years or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we don't really play here. We do some festivals here and there, like during summers, and like we played an indoor festival this like a month ago or something, I think. But no, we rarely play like here, and especially in our headline. So it's cool. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to try it out. I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Why don't you play a lot locally? Like,
well, you know, there's no scene over here. No, that's how it is, really. That's why so many Swedish bands, like we have so many good artists and bands coming from Sweden and Scandinavia, especially in the rock metal field. So what they do is that they go down to Germany or mainland Europe, because that's pretty close to us. And that's where we tour intensely. That's usually where we might get some attention. That's where a lot of bands get signed as well, including us. So I think that's where you build your audience. And when you get some sort of recognition, like people at your home territory can look at you and be like, okay, they actually made themselves a name. Then they kind of start accepting you over here. But it's a very hard market for that kind of music over here in Sweden. Definitely it is.
That's so wild, considering how many bands have come up through Sweden, and you just think it'd be like this hotbed for metal and hardcore, and it's just not.
I'd say the opposite, actually. Definitely the opposite.
So yeah, what got you into metal then?
What got me into a metal band?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think it must have started when I was around 14, 15 years old. And I started to discover, this old school hard rock, old school heavy metal. I'm referring to bands such as, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Metallica, that kind of old stuff. And I had a friend who owned an acoustic guitar. Like when I grew up in a super tiny village, 4,000 inhabitants, like somewhere in the southernmost part of Sweden, like far off from everything, basically. And but there was a guy there that I knew. He had a guitar, an acoustic guitar. I could go there, and I was always trying to sit in the corner and trying to figure out like how to play Iron Man or Smoke on the Water or something. And eventually, I got myself an acoustic guitar, saved up some money for it, and I just played so much. I had no really, like, at the point, you have to understand that I had really no input from what it meant to be playing the kind of music I was listening to.
Yeah.
So I was just playing it and wondering why it didn't sound like it did on the album. Pretty much. But later on, I got an electric guitar, started playing that, practiced all the time, and just started to assemble some friends that you kind of, forced to play with you in like a rehearsal space. and just kind of different formations of basement, garage bands, something like that. So we jammed out a lot. Eddie, our vocalist, was actually in one of those because we grew up together. We were in high school together. And from there, just one of the projects we were working on just kind of became Imminence after some time. Of course, the music we did at the time had nothing to do with what we do now. But it was somehow, well, it was pretty bad. We were really bad. But it was a lot of fun. And it was pretty heavy, and we just enjoyed ourselves so much. So yeah, that's how it went.
That's awesome. Because like, even though there's no scene there, because there is such a prominence of like Swedish metal bands, like, do people gravitate towards that, like knowing that like it exists?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it was better when I grew up. If you would go to the bigger cities, of course, there were shows, like touring bands were coming here as well, obviously, but not really as it would be, as my experience has been for touring so much in Europe. If there were coming any bands here, they would probably be quite a lot bigger, and they would only play in like our three main cities, like Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. And we have like a land surface that is almost as the size of Germany, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And we don't have so many inhabitants, but there were more bands at that time, but compared to what it is today. But I feel like, especially for that scene, also the metalcore, hardcore stuff was really not established, and especially it was getting a bit of hype there around maybe 10 years ago or something, and then it just disappeared again. And there were really few bands, that were managed to stick around, unfortunately. I've talked to some of your label mates over in France, and do you think it has to do with like the rise in popularity of like trap music and the ease of like creating your own music at home, or like bands and metal like kind of dissipates and more people aren't doing it? Or lately, I think so. Yeah, I think of course there are different trends growing up, but like, I'm gonna sound so old when I say this, but when I was young, when I went to high school or whatever, it was, of course, we had internet and we had social media, but absolutely not to the same extent as we have today. So it was really a thing where you had to, like, I went to local shows. I just said there was no scene, but I mean, there could be maybe some local bands playing in a city nearby, and of course there were no, like, there was not really an audience to talk about. But there were always some people that you knew, like some of the kids that you can hang around with, and also just to meet up with your friends once or twice a week, and to rehearse and jam together. It felt like a purpose that is really not. It's not needed in the same way today, because you can just go online, check your Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, and you'll see anything. You get the entertainment, you get the so you feel your social quote very much easier today compared to when I was young.
Yeah, which I'm sure was after I was young. So
okay, fair enough.
We had no social media in high school.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Was Eddie playing violin like always something you wanted to incorporate into your sound as something like different?
The thing is that Eddie, he played violin. He started playing when he was 5 years old, so he played on and off, like. And when we were young, we were like metalheads, like we listened to Slipknot and In Flames, and long hair and dreads and whatever. So the music we were writing at the time didn't really fit so well with that. We never saw that as an option. But quite early on, we actually tried it out. We did. I remember we played a show so many years ago where we tried to do a song live that had violin and stuff, but nobody got it. But that was probably because our performance was so bad. But and then we kind of we progressed away from that, and we were going into more. Well, we used violin here and there, but more for like arrangements to widen a chorus sometimes and just give that other element and another sound coming in, but not really as a fronted main instrument. I think we didn't do that really until we we wrote some acoustic stuff. That's true. We felt that it matched really well with what we wanted to do, but it wasn't until Turn the Light On when where we just talked about it, and I think it really, the first time it really worked, it really, when we chose to like front that instrument was in a song called Infectious.
Yeah.
And it just felt so natural for us. And it became like a B-side to Eddie's voice, like his vocals, or the way he's using his vocal instrument. So this is something he would do when he's not singing, and to complete the song somehow.
Yeah. It's a really cool layer. And especially like, when I first heard Temptation, like it adds so much, like it gives it a real cinematic feel. That's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. How'd you guys get connected with We Are Triumphant?
We Are Triumphant. My God, this is a long time ago. I think we, oh my God. I think it was like that where I believe that we had put out, like a music video for a song called Wine and Water. And it premiered on a channel called Hardcore Worldwide that was still like uprising at the time. And it got a pretty fair amount of clicks. For us at the time, it was great, passing videos with 100,000 views and then like 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And that was like, wow, okay, people are really watching it. And I think that the label manager reached out to us, or if it was to me, I don't remember really how it went, and just said, okay, I really like the song, asked us a bit about the band, and I said, yeah, I would love to release the entire EP when it's out. So yeah, that's how it went. He just found us on YouTube.
That's awesome. How'd you guys end up with The Rising Empire then from there? Almost
like in the same way. We only had those songs out, like from that EP and from an album first, like it was almost like a self-release that we did called the first album that we did ourselves. And after that, we started to tour. First tour we did was in 2014. We worked with the booker down in we went to like Balkans, Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia to tour. And it was super hard, but I thought it was just so fantastic. So after that, I decided to start learning how to book shows. So I booked our first tours, and I think it got us maybe, I don't know, in the first year something like, 50 tour dates or something, which was pretty good for the time. And I think like with some of our music, like especially the Hardcore Worldwide Wine and Water went pretty good, like in streaming numbers, and that Rising Empire saw that, damn, this band is like unsigned. They don't have like a booking agent, and they're doing everything on their own, and they're still like touring as hell. So I think that kind of caught their interest some years ago.
That's awesome. How did COVID affect the band? Like you guys put out Turn on the Lights in 2019, but it was mid 2019. So had you guys finished the touring cycle for that record and we're gearing up for writing the follow-up? Or
the thing is that we were actually fortunate enough we actually had time to do the album tour for Turn the Light On. And we did that. I think it was in January, February 2020 actually. So we were literally in Italy, played a show there a few days before the first COVID cases were found.
Oh, man.
So we really dodged the bullet, like really. Totally crazy. But of course, there were some plans except for festivals, and yeah, there was another tour that we wanted to put on sale, like an acoustic tour that we actually announced, and it sold so well. People were super excited, but we had to push that into next year. So touring wise, of course, it was very hard, super hard not to be on the road. Because you're just so used to that. You've been living that sort of lifestyle for many years now, and all of a sudden you just don't. But I think it was good in the way where we could just dive in and explore other aspects of our band, and especially like the songwriting, because the new album was written during the pandemic, and I think it was really the only thing that me and Eddie could just turn to and do, as well as we possibly could, because there was so much else that were like taken from us, so we could just give everything we had into that album.
Yeah, that's where you put your focus into writing. Or did you guys have like some sort of like Twitch or TikTok stream where you were trying to be engaging with fans at the same time?
No, nothing like that. I mean, I think it's important to, of course, you need to find other ways when you're facing like a crisis like this, but you still have to be observant of what, like when you're facing a hard situation or a crisis, still be mindful of who you are and what is right for you, what is your way. So we, except for the writing and developing a new album, we worked on mostly our e-commerce, like our web shop, because we were running our own storage and we were packing our orders by like with our own hands. Really, we handled everything, we taking care of it, and I think that was a really great thing to have, because it really felt like a lot of fans felt very connected to us. We felt very connected with the fans also. And I think they were giving an opportunity to support us in a very, very hard time. So we were happy and fortunate to have that, for sure.
That's awesome. With Sweden being less locked down than a lot of other countries, was it easy for you guys to get together and write?
Yeah, we had 0 lockdowns.
Yeah,
really. So yeah, that was no problem at all. Of course, you had to be careful. Like usually, you might see your best friend, you might give him a hug or something. So you had to be a bit careful with that, But we could meet up. We were writing at Eddie's place, as we always are, and that didn't mean any complications at all. Not even in the studio, because we recorded in November 2020. Yeah, we did, and we were just basically locked in the studio with Henrik Good. Outside of Gothenburg. It was just not meeting any other people. Yeah. So in that way, it was pretty COVID safe, I'd say.
That's cool, because you had time to be more creative in your writing. Were there things you wanted to try on this record that you hadn't done previously, whether that was exploring more violin in the music or?
I think, yeah, well, in a way, if we, like what we started with basically was just, as with any album cycle, you start where the previous one ended. But the first challenge is really to just, as I usually say, you just tear down everything you built up with the old album. Like you start from a clean slate. You want to start from scratch again, and try to be open to try and explore new ways to be creative and challenge your perception of yourself as a songwriter. And I think we always did that. And this is a very like unhinged process that just sort of happens. And it takes a lot of time. You need to dedicate a lot of time to this, which we did. And there was really no pressure here. Like we just wanted to finish the album eventually, but it's not like, okay, so now we finished that tour, we're doing the festival season, then we're gearing up for the next one. It's getting booked now, so the next release should be blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. It was sort of like you almost like stop the clocks. So nobody knows when this is going to be over. So take your time and do the best you can, and we'll plan from there on, basically.
Yeah. Was the conversation always to release this when you could tour and play shows again, or was it just when it's done and ready and feels right?
Obviously, we wanted to connect it with the tour. Because that is sort of the ultimate goal to us, to bring that music you wrote to the stage, to present it to people, and to feel that energy and the songs bouncing off the crowd. For us, that's pretty much what it is about. And you want to celebrate the release and also make justice to the music you wrote by performing it live. So of course, yeah, there was always the idea to try and put it out when this whole thing hopefully is a bit better.
I fear the end has just begun, as darkness festers in my heart. I know I can't go on chasing shadows in the dark. Searching for a remedy between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Were there any lyrical themes or ideas you guys wanted to tackle on this record?
Yeah, absolutely, it is. I mean, Heaven in Hiding there is definitely an overall theme. Heaven in Hiding is about, finding your own purpose, finding your own strength, looking beneath the curtain or behind the curtain, and not be easily persuaded by finding your reasons why or your purpose or the meaning in your life somewhere else. Because we feel like today there are so many ways to find that on a lot of shallow places, where you might easily look for answers. But for us, it's more about look inwards to yourself, like in order to try to fix what's not right and to fix yourself, like learn to love yourself first and understand yourself and look for that heaven inside of you, rather than anywhere else, or at least start at that point.
I meant to ask earlier, where'd the band name come from?
Imminence?
Yeah.
Actually, from the beginning, there was that's the hardest part of forming a band. Like, what are you gonna call yourself? So there were some different suggestions, I remember, but we kind of just felt drawn to that, like imminence and the meaning of it. But we're pretty young back then, so we didn't think so much about the meaning behind the word. But that kind of just fell into place later on, and sort of started to be a perfect reflection of what we want to, like, of how our approach is, as a band. So I guess it was just a natural attraction, if you will, to the band name, and then it just became a really, really good match, I think.
That's awesome. Well, November 26th, the record's out. You guys, you're hitting the road. You said you're hitting the road. You're going to tour. You just announced your record release shows locally.
Yeah. What's in the pipeline next?
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah.
Well, after that, we had 2 shows in January here in Sweden, which is pretty much the first headline shows we're doing since before the pandemic. After that, we go into Finland for a week, and pretty much right after that, we're heading out on the big European headline tour, where we're doing Europe and 1 date in UK. I think it's almost 20 dates, and we're super excited about that one. It's going to be the biggest headline dates we're ever doing. Like, we never stepped up to that capacity before, but we feel excited and really hoping that it's going to work out well.
Yeah.
I really hope so. I think so. And after that, we have a short run. We're going up to Russia, and then we get back basically to do the acoustic tour, which is going to be very, very. I'm looking forward to that so much. We're bringing a string quartet, like and a grand piano, like choir vocals, and we're playing in smaller concert halls. So we do a couple of dates with that setting in Germany. And festival season, we've been fortunate enough to, despite like this horrible pandemic, we've been fortunate enough to get offered some really good slots at some very, very good major festivals here over in Europe. So we're super happy about that.
I see the wolf beneath the skin, darkness rising from within, a secret heaven in hiding, can find a silver lining.
What we can say about the record is that I think it's like the perfect manifestation of where we were at by the time it was written. I've never felt more at home with the sound than with Heaven in Hiding, I must say. And I think this is really, it's absolutely by far the best work we've ever done. And definitely the most genuine one, I would say.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never look back. It's wild and fantastic. All together at full power, we're so much better. What's that word?